Okay.
This is AJ from Sports Hub Media with 12-time Emmy Award winner and NBC Bay Area news anchor Raj Mathai. As the first Indian sportscaster in the U.S., you are an inspiration to me because I am half Indian myself. So getting you on the show is a big deal for me.
Well, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I like your work ethic and your hustle, so it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And so tell me how your love for newscasting and journalism began.
I was a kid, or I should say, I was younger, probably about
Yeah.
your age. How old are you right now? You're almost
A
12?
12.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're 12. Yeah. So when I was, gosh, 7, I came to this country from India and I turned on the TV and I was watching Monday Night Football. And I was like, wow, those guys are having fun. Not the players, but the actual broadcasters.
Broadcasters.
So at that point, I was like, I think that's what I want to do. So since I was 7 years old, I've wanted to go into journalism, into TV, into sports journalism, and even just regular news journalism since I was 7.
Did you have any favorite sports team growing up?
I grew up here in the Bay Area, so I still am, a big Giants fan for baseball. My family are 49ers fans, but I grew up a Raiders fan, but they were here at that point as well. The Warriors. And when I was growing up, when I was your age, there were no Sharks. The Sharks weren't even a team. So I wasn't a Sharks fan because that wasn't an option for me. The Sharks came later in my life, but now I'm a big Sharks fan.
And did you play any sports growing up?
I did. I played baseball. I was a skier. I still am.
Skiing.
Yeah. And I played some soccer. I played some badminton. I kind of played everything.
That's nice. I played basketball, swimming, and flag football.
Ooh, nice. Nice. I love flag football.
And so your Wikipedia page states that you have many relatives who are well-known writers. Did they have an impact on who you are now, and if so, how?
I think so. Not a direct impact. We never had like a family conversation. That's a good question, by the way. We never had like a family conversation of, you know what, this is what you should do. You should become a writer. So not a direct impact, but I think an indirect impact that I have writers and journalists in my family, which kind of allowed me to think, oh, you know what? It's probably in my blood. I'm probably going to be pretty good at it if I work at it. So I think they had an indirect impact in terms of role models, and they were successful in what they do. So I kind of envisioned myself like, you know what, I could do that if I work hard.
And you are like that, and you're pretty good at it,
Thank
I
you.
have to say. And so these next questions will be about your career progression. You've worked at several places, and I want to know how you landed at each, your big learning moments, and when you decided to move on. So before you broke into broadcasting, correct me if I'm wrong, but you started as a PR assistant with the San Diego Chargers. How did that opportunity come about?
So I was in college at San Diego State University, and remember, I knew I wanted to get into journalism and sports,
Mm-hmm.
and I figured if I really want to be good at being a sportscaster for NBC or CBS or ABC, any station, I kind of wanted to know what it was like behind the scenes of a sports organization. So the closest one to me was the Chargers because I was going to San Diego State. They were in San Diego at the time. The Padres were also in San Diego. So I went to the stadium. It's called Jack Murphy Stadium back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I knocked on the offices and they're like, why are you here? And I said, well, I want to be an intern. And the guy was pretty impressed with my hustle, kind of like you. And so he said, well,
Thanks.
write me a letter and tell me why you want to intern for the San Diego Chargers. So I went home that night to my dorm room, wrote a letter, came back the next day, gave him the letter, and then he hired me. So I started with the San Diego Chargers back in 1990.
And what important lessons did you learn there?
I learned how to deal with people. I learned how to deal with professional athletes because I had to book all their interviews for them. I learned how to work under a deadline on a game day, an NFL game day, which was awesome. And I just learned the culture of sports, of big time professional sports. So that was my big learning moment of learning the culture, what it was like to work for an organization, and what drives a sports organization. So I got all that knowledge in my head.
And then when did you learn it's time to move on to another job?
We lost to the 49ers in the Super Bowl, so I figured, okay, this is probably a good time to leave. And coincidentally, about that time, I got my first job offer from a television station. I had been trying for months to get into a television station, and finally, it just happened to be a few weeks after the Super Bowl, after we lost to the 49ers, NBC station in Yuma, Arizona called me and said, "We got a job for you." And so I felt that was a good time to leave the NFL and the Chargers.
Yep. So next, you became the first Indian sportscaster in the U.S. Congratulations by, as you said, the Yuma, Arizona sports anchor. So, did you learn any important lessons there?
Well, I learned first of all that there are no Indians on TV, and there was no Indians doing sportscasting, that's for sure. So that was an interesting transition because you kind of had to tell people, they would say, "Are you black? Are you Mexican? Are you Puerto Rican? Are you Cuban?" None of those I was, right? So I kind of had to
Yep.
a learning moment and to kind of break through the noise and the ice to say, "Hey, I'm Indian." And then I learned just how to be a journalist. Your first job in anything, you can ask your dad or
Yep.
your uncles or your mom. You just learn how to do that job. And so I learned in Yuma, Arizona. I made mistakes. There was a lot of growth, but that's where you get good.
And then after Yuma, you went to Fresno. So, how did that opportunity come
Same
about?
thing. Well, think of it like a baseball player, maybe even a hockey player. You go through the progressions. You start in single A baseball, then go to double A, triple A, and then you go to the show, right? The
Yeah.
major leagues. So TV back in the day was kind of the same way. You start at a small market, Yuma, Arizona, which was actually a single A baseball team there. Then I went to Fresno, which was like a triple A market, and then here to the Bay Area, which is the big market, like the major leagues.
Yeah. And then any lessons there?
Same progression. You just get better. You start focusing more on writing technique, interviewing technique, and presentation technique. And also, I had been doing it now for a couple of years by the time I got to Air Fresno. And so I wasn't as nervous. Early on in Yuma,
Yeah.
I was a little nervous. Probably when you first started this podcast, you were a little
Yep.
nervous. Now you're pretty
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yep.
So I got a real comfort level before I got here to the Bay Area.
And then in 1998, you came here as the sports anchor. So, how did that opportunity come your way?
Same way. People were impressed with what I was doing in Fresno. So they called me and said, "Hey, would you like to come to the Bay Area? We know you grew up here, so you probably are really familiar with the sports scene," which is true. And I just had a great break in my career, which is all about kind of growing up in life. If you get sometimes you're blessed with great breaks, and that was a great break for me to come here.
And then in 2011, you became their primary news anchor.
Yeah. So I switched from sports to news. And I knew, way back when that at some point I'd probably make that transition. And so the station said, "You know what? We think you would be a good newscaster. Would you like to be our main newscaster and transition away from the main sportscaster?" So I did. And so that was 2011. And it was a great opportunity.
And you still are that job today.
I'm still on that job today. Exactly.
And when you first started in Yuma, you had to go by Roger Mathai. Do you remember the conversation you had to be able to use your real name?
Yeah, so Roger's not my real name, but back then, as we discussed, I was the first Indian, and they just weren't
Mm-hmm.
familiar with Indians on TV. And so they felt Raj, which is wacky because it's an easy name to pronounce, but they
Yeah,
felt
it is.
Raj is a difficult name to see, and people didn't know what it meant. They've never heard about it. And so they just said, "You know what? Let's go Roger because everyone's heard
Oh,
of Roger." So, you know what? You have to do certain things in your career, especially if you're the first one, and I
yep.
didn't like it, but I did it. And then a few years later, I went back to Raj because I started getting into big markets here in the Bay Area, and people knew what Raj is, and there was at that point more Indians coming onto TV. So it was not something I enjoyed, but I understood that to be the first one, you kind of have to make some sacrifices.
So you get what you want, but you also have to pay in
Yeah,
a way.
yeah, and it's something that you'll learn perhaps in life too. It's not everything's easy, and you have to give up something in any relationship or any business partnership.
Thanks. And I knew you didn't set out to be a trailblazer, but you knew there weren't any Indian people on the air when you were trying to break in. Did you think that at all? Did it ever create any doubts?
No, I was too young. And the great thing about being young is you don't care. And I didn't care if there were zero Indians or a million Indians on TV. I just really wanted to be a sportscaster on TV. It was in the back of my head that, oh, I would be the first Indian, but I honestly, I just didn't care. And even if someone said, oh, the odds are stacked against you, I just knew I could do it because I have a real belief and faith in myself and a good family and friends that believed in me as well.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And what is your proudest career moment?
I don't have one. I just really like working with my team. And I have a really great team of producers around me to this day that I've worked with since day one, and many that have gone on to other jobs. But I just love working with my team. So I feel being a good teammate is probably the proudest moment I've had. In terms of some career highlights, covering the Super Bowls have been great. I've covered 7 Olympics. That's been
That's a
awesome.
lot.
Yeah. I've done a governor's debate. I've done a congressional debate. Those all stand out. And I actually ran the Olympic torch 3 times, which is
Wow.
amazing. So I would say that would probably be my career highlight, running the Olympic torch 3 times.
Yeah, because most people have never ran the Olympic torch once.
That's right.
Ran it
Yes,
three.
you're a very smart guy.
Thanks. And now going on to doing the job. So, walk me through a typical day for you when you were a sportscaster and now that you're the news anchor.
That's a good question. Sportscaster, usually I'm up, right when I wake up in the morning, I'm listening to the radio or internet or podcast or TV,
Hmm.
just getting a bunch of information. So today, for example, someone that might talking about the Warriors and LeBron James might be
LeBron.
coming to the Warriors and Draymond Green. Or we might be talking about Team USA soccer or the 49ers. So you're just you're getting all sorts of input on different sports stories. Then you start talking with your producers, and similar to news, actually, it's news and sports are very similar. You get a bunch of information, then you find out what's the most interesting to you personally and what's the most interesting to the people you're serving. So for the Bay Area, that's who I serve. Then I'm talking to producers. In fact, right now I'll get off and start texting and calling my producers for what we're going to do tonight. And we start kind of making a game plan. And that's how it works throughout the day. And of course, I'll do my personal errands and go out for lunch and all that, but really I go into work at around 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon. So that's when my day officially starts, but my day really starts at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m.
Yeah,
But
and I'll
I go in at 3 p.m. and get ready for the 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. news, then take a little dinner break and get ready for the 11 p.m. news.
and I'll be sure to watch your news tonight.
You should, please, and every night.
Yes, every night. Last night it was because I have a schedule, so
I got
I tuned on maybe 1 or 2 minutes late, but
it. That's all right.
and the media landscape has changed so much since when you first started in 1995. And has that changed how you do your job?
Yes and no. It has changed how I do my job because there's a lot of different platforms for my job. So when I was your age, there was only TV and radio and newspaper. So there's 3 things. Now there's TV, radio, newspaper, podcast, Twitter, social media, all sorts of things, correct? So
Yep.
it's changed my job in the sense that we have a lot of different platforms we have to reach, and that makes it challenging. But part of the job that hasn't changed is I tell stories and I convey news and I do it accurately and fairly. So that has not changed.
And how do you prepare to break big news like the president getting a president inauguration?
Big news to break it or to report it, first you have to be just very sure of what's happening. So if you're about to break a story that no one else has reported yet, you got to make sure it's accurate, make sure it's correct. And then you have to be a good writer. You have to learn how to write the script and convey the story. So it's exciting, and it's a great part of the job.
And what's the most difficult part of your job?
It's a challenge to get both sides of the story correctly. So, if there's a big story, I have to get this person's perspective, and then I've got to get the actual facts correct. So, most of the time I get it right, not all the time. And if I get it wrong, then we correct it. So it's always a challenge to get things right.
And that's good to know for me if I become your job later.
Yeah, you got to get it right. And sometimes, you'll swing and miss, but you have to be very upfront and say, "Hey, we got something wrong. Let me correct that." But it's a great challenge to get it right. Most of the 98% of the time we get it right.
And as opposed to that, what's the most rewarding part of the job?
I'm serving the community. And if I'm not here, if journalists aren't here, then there's no one to really monitor or check politicians or organizations or priests or CEOs. Yeah, I mean, everyone needs to be kind of to play by the rules. And if you're not playing by the rules, journalists are often there to say, hey, wait a second, that's not adding up. You're not playing by the rules. Why? And if we weren't here in that role, then there would be a lot of people breaking the rules.
So you guys are kind of like the peace mediators in a way.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Traffic, it could be a police officer, a peace mediator, a community servant, someone that's in the best interest for the community, and that's what journalists do.
And we're glad you're here reporting for Bay Area.
Thank you.
And what was some adversity you had to overcome besides like Roger Mathai?
That's probably the most notable one. Another thing that I had to overcome when I switched from sports to news, I had never done news before, and all of a sudden I had to switch, and not had to, I chose to switch. And that was challenging because that first year I didn't think I was very good at doing news because it was a totally different workflow, a different analysis, way to analyze things, a different way to tell the story. So it was a transition. It was a growth period for me, and I think I wasn't very good for the first year. So I had to overcome that, and then I think I got to a level where I felt comfortable.
Well, it's okay because we all have our mistakes and learning periods. Like Steph Curry wasn't who he is now at his rookie season.
That's true. Not even his first 3 years. You're right.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the bad news you have to report?
That's hard, because it's inevitable. It's just human nature that you come home
Yeah.
and you kind of sink your head a bit just to, if you as you think about terrible things that have happened to a community or a kid or a parent, um, or an athlete, anything. And so, it's hard. But I think after doing it for so many years, I can kind of compartmentalize what I do for work and then come home and enjoy my family and deal with my family and my health and other things. But, it's inevitable that you learn or it kind of bleeds into you of what you cover.
And can you walk me through how a newscast comes together and how you balance reporting negative news and positive news?
Excellent question. It comes together with a collaboration of about 10 to 15 people, producers, managers, the on-air anchors, reporters, and it's kind of like a big thing of soup. Everyone kind of stirs around a bunch of ingredients, so a bunch of stories. And really, the anchor, managing editor, and news director, kind of the higher elevated people in the newsroom will kind of say, "Hey, you know what? Let's go with this today, or this show. Let's go with this or this." And we try to balance it where it's not just all about death and destruction,
Yeah.
where it's not just all about parties, where it's not just all about, there's a balance of what we do.
Yeah.
And I think each news station has a different personality of what they cover, which makes it unique.
And how often are ratings reviewed and how do they influence what stories get aired?
Ratings are reviewed every day.
Yeah.
and they influence not necessarily what stories get aired because we want to do the stories that people are talking about and that are important in the community. And we look at ratings of, are we presenting it well? Are we responsible? Are we accurate? That's how we look at ratings. So it's not like, oh, we didn't have a good rating that night. Is it because of the story we covered? That's usually not how it goes. Usually we just cover the stories we feel that are valuable to the Bay Area, and we hope the ratings come with us.
And what do you think makes a good newscaster?
Credibility, that means, are you honest? Do people trust you? And I think that's it. If you're credible, honest, and you have trust with the people that are watching or reading or listening to you, then right away you're a pretty good newscaster. And then just repetition and experience and some personality and some flair, I think, help as well.
Yeah. And do you have a memorable interview or news story?
I have a lot. I used to really enjoy interviewing Barry Bonds because I followed him during his home run chase many years ago. And he was kind of a prickly guy. He's a bit of an ass, but he was a fascinating guy to interview. General Colin Powell, he led the U.S. military for for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke with him, a great interview with him, and he was fascinating because he was explaining to me why we got into the war in Iraq a couple of decades ago, and that wasn't a very popular thing we did. So it's fascinating talking to him.
And
Go ahead.
I saw an interview with you where you said that you got to interview Michael Jordan, and then he invited you out to play pool later that night. You
Yeah,
think
yeah.
you think in his private time he wouldn't want reporters around? Did you ask him why he invited you out?
He was in town. I did ask him why. He was in town doing a charity basketball game. This was in Fresno when I was at NBC in Fresno.
Fresno.
And I was hustling like you. I was hustling to get an interview with him, and all the reporters were in one part of the building, and he didn't go in that part of the building. They thought
Oh,
that's he would come in this way. I had a sense that he was going to go to the back entrance. So just me and my photographer went to the back entrance of the arena, and boom, there he was. And we had a quick interview with him,
wow.
and he wasn't talking to any media, local media, national media, but I kind of got him, and he was surprised that I was there. And so later on that day, one of his associates called the newsroom and said, "Hey, why don't you come out meet Michael for some pool and some drinks after the newscast?" Because he was kind of impressed that you showed up in the back part of the arena and got this interview.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I met him. We played pool and had some drinks, and I think we stayed up till 4 in the morning. Uh,
Oh, okay. And yeah, that's what hustle does,
exactly. Hustle
and
and
think
creativity. That's
and
what it does.
thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I got Michael Misa. Instead of like, I went to a Sharks practice,
Yeah.
and then as he was exiting, I'm like, "Hey, Misa, can we do like a 5 questions interview? Scheduling it." He's like, "Okay." He's
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty odd. When I was your age, all the teams that used to play the 49ers used to stay in a hotel in Palo Alto. That was their visiting team hotel. And so we would bike over to the hotel because I lived maybe a couple miles from that hotel. We would bike over to the hotel on a Saturday because we knew that was the chill day for NFL players. They were just kind of hanging out in meetings, and they would be hanging out at the hotel. And we would just go and get all their autographs and talk to them. And they would be like, "Hey, little kid, all right, come here. I'll give you an autograph." They would invite us into their hotel room. They were chilling. They would give us candy bars, all sorts of stuff. It was cool.
That's nice. I mean, that's kind of what I did All Star Weekend when it was hosted here last year.
Yeah,
My family and I knew like, oh, it's gonna be the athletes are staying at the St. Regis, so like, why not meet them? So I met like Zach Eady, Jaron Jackson Jr.
it's awesome. Exactly right. Be where the people are that you want to hang out with or see.
And going back to Michael Jordan, did you get to see his competitiveness during pool?
Yes, we started betting heavily. I was with a
Oh,
buddy who's a good pool
okay.
player, and Michael, and my buddy Michael's two Michaels. Started betting several $100s on
Oh,
football games,
okay.
football matches. So it was pretty funny. So yes, and we stayed up till 4 a.m. because they kept going back and forth. And I was just having fun talking and drinking and socializing with the other people there.
The, the only time I did pool was this virtual pool because for spring break I got to go to Tokyo, Japan, and it's a long flight, so they
That
provide
is
screens. So in the way back, I was playing pool against CPU with no money on the line.
nice. Now you said you were half Indian. Are you half Japanese, half Indian?
Half Vietnamese. My
Vietnamese.
mom
Okay.
is from Vietnam.
Okay. Cool blend.
Yeah. And people sometimes, even my friends, they're like, wait, what? You're like half Indian, half Cambodian, Thai?
That's cool. You look cool.
Thanks. And so moving on to some personal questions. What can we find you doing when you're not working?
Hanging with my family. I have a daughter and a son, so I just love spending time with them. I like cooking. I like skiing. And I used to like playing pickleball, but then I got injured, so I don't play pickleball anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
How often do you get people like me trying to interview you?
Fairly often. And so, I don't have much time, but there's some interview requests that stick out like yours. And so
Thanks.
I make time for it.
And you've covered a lots of sports in your career. Do you have any favorites?
I love the NFL. Covering the NFL and covering the Super Bowls are my favorite. I mean, I really love hockey playoffs. I love the Olympics, but the NFL is king to me.
And did the Niners being such a dynasty when you grew up have something to do with it?
Of course, Niners and Raiders in the 1980s, both teams were here and both teams were the talk of the league. And so you had Hall of Fame players everywhere and great personalities. So I think it's a big part to do with it. We had two football teams here, both at a high level, and both, really illustrious franchises.
And you've been an three-time Olympic torchbearer, as you mentioned earlier in this video. How do you get a B1? Like, do you get chosen?
You
Or
get chosen. Yeah, usually the mayor or the governor of that city or state has an option to pick some people, community members, and so or corporate people. So NBC was always the home of the Olympics, and so in Arizona, NBC picked me to run the Olympics, and then here in San Francisco, um, I was selected by Mayor Willie Brown, who was the mayor at the time when I ran in '02, and then Mayor Gavin Newsom, who was the mayor when I ran in 2008. So I was picked by the mayors.
so, which Olympics did you go to?
I've been to, started with LA when I was your age. Then, all right, let's do this. Salt Lake City, Athens, Torino, Italy, Vancouver,
Five,
Tokyo.
6.
Part of
And which Olympics did you torch? Did you become the torchbearer?
Atlanta, Salt Lake City, Beijing.
That's cool. And what is your favorite book?
My favorite book. I don't think I've ever been ever asked that. Let's think about this. I read a lot. Book that stands out to me a lot. What's my Herman Hesse book? Let me see. Let me see what I think. This is I've been asked a lot of questions. I don't think I've been asked this one.
Yeah, there are more questions like this coming up.
Oh, good. I like this. I like what you're doing to me.
Just like personal questions, just to get to know who you are, like
Yeah.
personality.
What I will tell you, I read a lot of biographies, um, but that doesn't really tell me, I could read about sports stars and politicians, but I think the book that I've read many times and I go back to many times would be Siddhartha, which is not a very long book. It's by Herman Hesse. You should read it one day. And it just kind of talks, it's a story about a young man growing up and how he deals with his surroundings and how he deals with life, family, bless you, um,
Thanks.
and and money and relationships.
I'll look into that.
Look into that.
Um, my, Mine would probably be the Spy School series by Stuart Gibbs since I'm still like 12.
Good. Now, Where the Wild Things Are is probably
Oh,
my second
yes.
is probably my second favorite book. In fact, I liked it so much. My son's name is Max, just like the kid in the book is named Max.
Yes, I have it. Um, I used to read it all the time when I was like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I like it. And then a book that taught me a lot about economics and culture is The Nature and Logic of Capitalism. I don't even know the
Mm,
author, but I read that and I remember that just resonated with me, that book. So let's go with those three books.
okay. And your favorite food?
Oh man. I would have to say Indian food, but God, I love Mexican food and I love Chinese food. Is there a three-way tie?
Yeah, you can do whatever.
Oh,
It's
good.
your
Three-way tie.
opinion.
Three-way tie. Indian, Mexican, Chinese. And then
My,
Italian's right there in fourth place.
Mine is sushi.
Great. I mean, sushi is awesome.
And your favorite dessert?
Another tough one because I have such a sweet tooth. Key lime pie
Key lime pie.
and a hot fudge sundae.
I'm less of like a dessert person, but more of like a candy person.
Oh yeah, I like candy. I have a problem with candy, sweets. I eat a lot of it.
And if you could travel to any place in the world for free, where would you go? Like you snap your fingers and then you end up in the place you want.
Hmm. I really like Paris. So Paris.
For me, Japan, my bucket list is a mile long, but Japan was number one. But since I
Okay.
went to it, I have a two-way tie for Paris and Singapore.
Ooh, wow, that's cool. I've never been to Singapore, so I would like to check that out.
And in another interview, you mentioned that like two interesting places you visited were Turin, Italy, and Athens. Where would you put them?
Athens is great. Turin was nice, but I prefer Athens just because I mean the food and the culture and the history of that place. But all the Olympic cities I've been to, I loved. But yeah, Athens would be my favorite. But the favorite Olympics I went to in terms of city would be London. And in terms of what was happening at the time would be Tokyo because it was during COVID and there was
COVID.
no fans, no one in the city except for the locals and then, 1,000 journalists. So we had the city to ourselves. It was a
Yeah, me and
eerie but fascinating time.
me and my dad, we were watching the checking in with Raj thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how you had to like first you had to do the spit thingy, then you go to the studio, which is
Yeah,
yep.
that's wild.
And I'm gonna ask a prediction around
Okay.
a news story that's been going around lately. Will LeBron James join the Warriors, or will he
I,
go on to another team?
I think all signs point toward him joining the Warriors. Draymond Green not taking the player option, therefore loosening up money. Steph Curry, Draymond, and LeBron, all good friends. A lot of those guys, Draymond and LeBron, represented by the same agent. So it's all working together behind the scenes. So one of these days, it's going to be, hey, it's all happening. It's going to be hilarious to see all those old dudes on one team, but that's the way it looks.
Is there a chance that the Warriors are, because there's another trade rumor that the Warriors are going to trade Jimmy Butler straight for Anthony Davis? Do you see that
I
happening?
I mean, it could. It all depends on matching up salaries and so forth. And that's not my expertise anymore, at least. But I could see all these scenarios happening. But it seems like they're working behind the scenes here to get LeBron.
And we're moving to our final two questions. So, what was the best advice you've ever gotten?
Be creative in how you out hustle everyone. So you can't just go out hustle someone and succeed. You have to be good. You have to be creative in how you do it. So the Michael Jordan story would be an example. You have to figure out. what everyone else is doing and then what everyone else isn't doing and find out if there's some space in there for you to take advantage of that. Show up on the other side of the arena if possible.
So like outside the box thinking.
Outside the box thinking. You have to be creative in how you do it. So yeah, that was advice that I learned and was given. Oh, excuse me.
And
Hi, hello. Excuse me. All good.
okay. And my final question, what advice would you have for up and coming broadcasters like me?
Again, be creative and work your ass off. And I think that's a good combo. If you can do those two things, then there's a really good chance you'll succeed. But being creative isn't easy. You have to figure out, you know, teachers and maybe parents and other people are telling you, here's the way you're supposed to do it. But you have to kind of say, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do it that way. I think I'm going to come over here and try it over here. You're still going to hustle. You're still going to work hard and study, but you might not do it the way everyone else wants you to do it. You might be called Roger at one point. That's not how your parents wanted you to do it, but you have to figure out another way to do it, you know?
Or in my case, it might be something like Aaron or something.
At this, you're fine now in terms of because we're such a diverse area here,
Yeah.
but there'll be something in your life where you might have to do something that's out of your comfort level.
And so that's all I have for you, Raj. So thank you again for joining me here.
It's my pleasure. Really cool show. I'm happy to be on.
Thanks. And bye.